You're listening to the 49 Carats podcast, a 49ers Goldmine production with Stephanie Sanchez.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the 49 Carats podcast. I'm your host, Steph. It is Thursday, December 12th. We just finished watching one of the worst offensive performances from this 49ers team that I can remember in this Brock Purdy-led era, right? Against the Rams. This was a must-win game. We drank some of the Kool-Aid after the way this offense, after the way this team looked against the Bears last week. And they bamboozled us, especially the offense. I have nothing but good things to say about the defense, and I will maybe get to that in a second. But let me cook on this offense because they were atrocious from the very start of this game. And I get it. It was raining. This offense does not do good in the rain. It was raining pretty heavily in the first half. They get some early points going. They're force-feeding Debo. Let's talk about that really quick. They're force-feeding Debo, which I think, okay, in my preview show, if you guys checked it out, I expected this. Like, it was going to be the same treatment that George Kittle got. You know, they were going to force-feed this player after being the squeaky wheel, you know, the week prior, right? Kyle talked about it. Brock talked about it. I mean, the stars aligned for Debo to be fed heavily in this game. The problem is Debo Samuel did not eat. Kittle, the week prior, I think definitely paid dividends in feeding him. He ate, right? He did that. 151 yards against the Bears. Debo Samuel, this might have been Debo Samuel's worst games like ever as a 49er. Like I'm trying to just wrap my head around him going on social media after a win, mind you, after a win, to talk about the fact that he's not struggling. He just needs to get the ball more, which was a lie. We debunked that this week, right? He had been getting the ball, but now the 49ers, Kyle Shanahan, go into a overdrive concerted effort to get him the ball. And from the very beginning, he does nothing to repay this offense for getting the ball. Yes, bro, you are struggling. You are struggling. Like, you are the driver of the struggle bus right now. And I just don't have anything else to say about Debo Samuel. Let's look at his box score really quick. It's going to be atrocious. He had 2 carries for 3 yards, average of 1.5. He had 3 catches on 7 targets. He tied George Kittle for amount of targets. He had 16 receiving yards. Mind you, he also dropped a pass that would have been a touchdown. I can't understate how badly the 49ers needed a touchdown. Both teams needed a touchdown in this game. None were scored. None were scored. It was like it was a field goal fest. Who wanted to see that? I'm so sorry to anyone who's not a Rams and 49ers fan who had to watch this game on Thursday Night Football. I mean, it's Thursday night. What could we expect, right? But holy shit, I was expecting something a lot better than this at the very least. It was just so disappointing top to bottom. I think I didn't have an expectation that they would lose, but I still very much thought it was a possibility. Like, yeah, it's a division game. The Rams have been on fire. I could have lived with the fact that the 49ers could lose this game. Like, that was a possibility, yeah. Defense, again, played great. Defense, not on my shit list. Offense, however, this didn't look like an offense that knew that this was their last chance at making the playoffs. Again, every game from here on out needed to be a must-win, right? There was no urgency from this team. There was a lot of doing the same things over and over, like Debo, mostly, and seeing if it would work. Deep throws. There were a bunch of deep throws in this game, and it almost felt like that was part of the game plan. Like, Brock had a bunch of deep attempts, most of which he underthrew. The only one he overthrew ended up being the interception that effectively ended their chances of making this a game and winning this game. Brock Purdy, kind of ended the 49ers season if you think about it. All right. And again, not having Debo off the hook here, he definitely contributed to this loss as well by not contributing anything, really. So this is a crazy way to go out. Crazy way to go out. Just a lot of the things that we saw last week from this team that we were hoping would translate. We talked about Kyle pressing the easy button for Brock Purdy last week. A lot of play action, screen passes, things like that. I just don't think I saw as much of that. And if we did, it just didn't have success in this game. Again, I think at the first half, rain contributed, or maybe it didn't. Maybe it didn't because there was no rain in the second half and the offense still looked terrible. So maybe it's a cop-out to say that the offense struggled because of the rain in the first half because they looked the exact same in the second half, maybe even worse. So, yeah, this is crazy. I want to talk about the defense really quick because what angers me more is the fact that the defense played well in this game. The defense did everything they could to make Stafford uncomfortable. Again, I have to remind people, like, this Rams offense was like on fire. This was the same Rams offense that put up 40 plus points on the Bills last week, like 4 days ago. 4 days ago. And this 49ers defense holds them to just 12 points. I don't want to hear anything about the defense this week. All right. I got to say, it was great to see Bosa back. It was like so great to see Dre Greenlaw back. And I hope he's okay because I know he exited, in the second half. And it was in the third quarter. Early in the third quarter, the Rams had the ball. And it felt like at that point when he exited that things just kind of started not fall apart. Like the defense, I don't think fell apart even with Greenlaw out, but the Rams were able to chip away a little bit easier with Greenlaw off the field. And I think at the end of the game too, like Jair Brown, who had to start this game because Mustafa was out. Jair Brown had to exit because of a groin injury. So like Tashawn Gibson was playing safety with Hufanga back there. I think who else? So DFF was out there, who obviously is not Dre Greenlaw. I think you guys probably saw that in a few plays. DFF was getting bullied a couple times out there by the Rams. So I do think there was a bit of a domino effect when Greenlaw exited. Where have we seen that before? I don't know. So the defense played great. It was good to see those guys back. And again, I do hope that Greenlaw is okay. Greenlaw is the first 49ers player with 9 or more tackles in the first half of a regular season game since Fred Warner had 10 in 2021, week 17 against the Texans. That's nuts. This dude, like 10 months removed from an Achilles tear? You kidding me? In his first game back? Dude was playing with his hair on fire. I loved it. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less from Dre Greenlaw. So it's a shame. It's a damn shame that in his first game back, you can't even muster up any offense to help Greenlaw, who was busting his ass out there. Can't help him out. You can't help this defense out. Fred Warner, I thought, played great in this game. Man, the defense looked fine. And I think the only critique I could give the defense is that Matthew Stafford was almost trying to throw an interception. Like they had 3 chances at a pick in this game, and they couldn't catch any of them. That would be my only critique. But other than that, the 49ers defense still did everything right in order to give the offense their opportunities. And that's been the story several games this season. So it's just very frustrating to see it this late in the season in a divisional game in what should have been a must-win game, right? Was it Yetur Gross-Matos last week that was coming off the field and said first playoff win or something like that because they were seeing every game as a must-win. And You lose, you go home. That was the mentality. Didn't look like this offense had that same mentality. Definitely not. Definitely not Deebo Samuel. Just say that right there. Purdy. Again, I don't know if it's a couple things with Purdy in this game. I think in the first half, he was all right. Like, I think considering the wet conditions, we were all worried about the wet conditions. In the first half, it was okay. Like, they made it through. They got points on the board. They went up early. He finished 14 of 31, 142, 1 pick, 3 sacks, including the one that also ended the game. So you take a sack at the end. The drive before that, you throw a pick. His passer rating, 45.4. That was just bad. That was really bad. So I don't know what to make of Brock. He'll have games where he looks good, and he'll have a game like this where you really need him to get something going to kind of save the day, and he airmails it. He airmailed it a few times in this game. He also had that one pass deep over the middle to Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall had to stop to get this, to even have a chance to get this ball. He stops because it's underthrown, has to jump up to try to, have a better chance at it than the defender. That could have very well been a pick as well. Just saw this again. I had it in my notes. Brock Purdy, 0-7 past 20 yards and a pick. Bad. And why was he trying so many deep throws? I don't know. It just felt like it almost felt like he was told to do that. That was part of the game plan. It was just really weird. It almost felt like they were trying to go for the kill shot in this game, which is going for a deep shot to be your kill shot is not really Purdy's game. Maybe in 2023. Man, I am parched. Been going off on this team for 10 minutes. Let me get to some of your comments because you guys are awesome and probably just as pissed as I am. Gage says everyone is so quick to point to injuries, but there's a serious systematic problem with this team. I mean, obviously, you don't go 15 weeks into your season and still looking like the same team you did in week 1, which is bad. They've looked like a bad team that whole time. I think the best glimpse of a cohesive team was last week against the Bears. We know the Bears are a bad team. So now I'm because the question last week was are the Bears that bad or are the 49ers back? I think the answer is the Bears are just bad. And the 49ers offense bamboozled us into thinking that they could repeat that performance. Look, and I saw a lot of people say the 49ers offensive line really struggled today. And yes, I think they do. I don't think people realize how good the Rams defensive line is. I've said it. I love their last 2 drafts, the Rams. I'm they invested in their trenches. Of course, I said that the week that they played the Eagles, so it wasn't well received by people. But hey, I think you can agree the Rams defensive line looked pretty good in this game. Their offensive line held up. But yeah, the 49ers definitely struggled. Yeah, this team is done. This team is cooked. Yeah, I think okay, what do we do now? I mean, now your season is pretty much done. I think the graphic on Prime watching this game was the 49ers playoff chances if they lost would be down to 0.1%. So you're cooked. You're done. Right? How does that change how you play things going forward? Because remember, for a few weeks now, I've been begging this team to just shut it down because clearly your season is over. And then they got it in their heads that, wait, we got guys coming back, so we might be able to do this. And then they won against the Bears. So we were like, oh, shoot, we might actually be able to do this. And then they like lay an egg, no touchdowns against, the Rams. So what's the game plan now? I think now you have to kind of shut it down, right? Like Bosa came back for this game. Should he continue playing? Dre Greenlaw played in this game, and like I said, I guess we'll have to wait and see what the word is on Greenlaw. But do you risk him re-aggravating something, hurting himself any further? I don't know. He looked great when he was out there, so I kind of wouldn't mind the 49ers extending him. And if you're thinking about extending him, you probably shouldn't have him out there the rest of these games. Trent Williams shouldn't play another snap this season, So they have a lot of decisions to make. I think one of them should be get Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing more snaps over Deebo Samuel, who has not done shit to help your team this season. I'm sorry, it's just the truth. I tweeted it out. Deebo Samuel is in his Klay Thompson era. And someone said that's an insult to Klay Thompson. I'm sorry, man. Not sorry to Deebo. Sorry to Klay. In a way, it is very, very similar. And I'm only talking about Klay Thompson from last year's Warriors team, which it just felt like he was in his head a lot. He couldn't do anything right. That's where Deebo's at right now. Very much in his head. Shooters are going to shoot. He's going to keep getting the ball. He's going to keep trying, but he's going to fall flat on his face. So that's what we've seen from Deebo. Get these young players, get these rookies ready for next season. I want to see more of these guys. Thankfully, we've seen a lot of them already because of injury. Keep going. Keep going. Keep getting them snaps, especially these wide receivers. There's a reason you picked a wide receiver in the first round, and it's not to continue giving Deebo snaps in a wasted season. It's not. So I want to see more of that. Oh, man. I've seen this too. So, Aaron Banks, his first game back at left guard. Remember, Aaron Banks playing, I think part of the reason that Aaron Banks kind of had to start was because Ben Barch had to go on IR. He got hurt last week. His season's done. High ankle sprain. Feliciano, his season was done, right? So, they've had a lot of injuries at left guard where now their only option is kind of Aaron Banks. They also have Spencer Burford. So I'll be interested to see if Spencer Burford gets more playing time going forward too, because Banks is a free agent after this season, right? So he's going to get a bag. And the 49ers shouldn't worry about that. We don't need to do Banks any more favors. Let him get his bag. Let him walk in free agency. Let him sit the rest of the season. Let's see what Spencer Burford could do on the left side. Why not, right? Jake Brendel. We've seen enough to Jake Brendel. We know what he is. Why not? Let's just see what Nick Zakello could do. And if Nick Zakello or any of the other, Drake Nugent, any of the other center options look really bad too. I'm trying not to swear. If those guys look terrible too, and it's to the point where Brock is we're risking Brock getting hurt, then, go back to Brendel. But otherwise, we've seen enough. I have seen enough. Oh, God. JME says, I've been saying Deebo should be the punt returner. He gets the ball and has power to run through people. Every once in a while. Most of the punts were just touchbacks today. Even the last one should have been a touchback, but it was desperation mode. So he tried to, run in, had a nice return. But I'm fine with Deebo being a punt returner or a kick returner the rest of the season. But I'm not having Deebo be a punt returner over Jacob Cowing right now. Because again, I want Jacob Cowing to get the snaps. I want him to get the experience. I'm fine with keeping Deebo as a kick returner, but that's about it. Because at this point, that's the only thing he's been good at. which is baffling. Like how do you have power and have burst on these returns, but you don't have, like, we're not seeing the burst anywhere else. It's weird. El Viejo, my brother-in-law, says Purdy is a solid backup quarterback, but I don't think he's their franchise quarterback. We're going to do this all over again, aren't we? Isn't this what the 49ers like eventually discovered with Jimmy Garoppolo, who, by the way, was the was the backup quarterback for the Rams today, ironically? I mean, it was a lesson they had to learn over the course of several seasons, but it might be the same with Brock Purdy. I think the 49ers are fine with having a guy that's good enough to get them there. And hey, the rest is up to them. I do still think they'll pay Brock Purdy. I think they've made up their mind on that. So how much is the question? And that's what we're finding out. That amount is still being shaped by these next couple of games. This game did not help, I'll tell you that much. Juan says, trade Debo for a stick of gum. I don't care about the dead cap. Feeding him costs us the game. Who's going to trade for Debo? Like, after like what Debo looked like today, like who would realistically trade for Debo? And for how much? Because, the 49ers always overvalue their players in trade talks. So, yeah, I don't know. I just don't see another team being willing to meet the 49ers at their asking price for Debo. But if they're really content on, moving on from him, then I could see it. GME says the game was boring. Sure was. I'm sorry. I had to watch it. Shoot. All right, this is weird. So Kyle Shanahan speaking with the media, right? Kyle Shanahan said that DeAndre Campbell told the 49ers he didn't want to play and left the game in the third quarter. We got DeAndre Campbell, mid-Campbell, pulling an Antonio Brown on us. That's just sad. That's sad. That's wild. And then Kyle was asked if the 49ers would release Campbell. And then Shanahan said, we'll figure out something. Here's what I'm saying, man. These old heads, these veterans haven't done much to help this team. Leonard Floyd, shout out to Leonard Floyd. He's been great this season. But there's been a number of guys that have been extremely disappointing for this team. DeAndre Campbell, for the better half of the season, has been one of those guys. And to just walk out, is it because Greenlaw came back? Is it because D. Winters has been getting playing time over him? Which he has deserved that, by the way. I guess it's that. Let's see more of D. Winters. That's fine. Bye, DeAndre Campbell. Oh, God. All right, let me get to more of these comments. 49ers Throwback asks, who's solely to blame for the loss? There's never just the solely, but if I had to do an overarching, blame, it's the offense. Undoubtedly, the offense takes the blame for this loss. They were so bad. Like they didn't do anything in this game. Nothing close to what we saw the previous week in terms of execution. They had the chances. It was like either Brock was throwing an inaccurate pass, or when it was accurate, dudes were dropping it. Like I think even Juwan Jennings had like 2 drops, and I know he had at least one. So nothing worked. Nothing came together in this one. RJ said, well, that was underwhelming. Piss poor offensive performance. No one on offense, coaches included, showed grit or any want to. Embarrassing loss on national TV. Absolutely. And, for like much of the game, the Rams were kind of on the same boat. Like their offense took a long time to get going. But I think like in the back of our minds, we all knew like Matthew Stafford was going to get one at some point in this game. Like all he needs is one. And he did. There was the one drive he started, and this was after, so there was the 10-minute drive in which, the defense did a good job of stopping him in the red zone. That was the one time in the last 14 drives or the last 15 drives in the end zone that the 49ers defense kept them from scoring. Because opposing offenses had scored 14 consecutive times in the red zone against the 49ers before that. 14 consecutive times. So that was the only time the 49ers stopped a team in the red zone since then. That was the 10-minute drive, though. So the defense was on the field for a long time. Then the 49ers offense gets it back for 1 minute. They pretty much go 3 and out. And then the defense back on the field again. Right then and there, Matthew Stafford goes for that deep ball to Puka Nacua. What was it, 50 yards? 51 yards. Yeah, 51 yards. So, dude. That was, to me, that's where it started falling apart. And again, that was when Greenlaw exited. So it was just, this offense was asking way too much of its defense, and they were doing nothing. So that was my issue. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about the interception, right? So, we already talked about the fact it was an overthrow from Brock Purdy. What was baffling about it is that, Brock locked into that throw rather quickly. I didn't really see him survey the field or anything. And if he had, he would have seen a check down to Garendo, where Garendo had room to run and roam after that. So he could have easily taken a check down, would have been a very positive play. You live to see another down. But that deep pass in that moment was just odd. It was very odd. Again, I don't know what if he was supposed to go to that or if that was Brock's decision to go to that one, but that was bad. And it was 2nd and 10. It's not like it was a third and 10, 3rd and long, 4th down, desperation, let's get something going. It was a 2nd and 10. 2nd and 10 at Rams 33, dude. I can't. That was baffling. That was such a bad decision. Very bad decision. Tony said, we only going to win one division game this year. They haven't won any yet, right? Are you predicting that they win against the Cardinals? Yeah, could happen. We'll see. I'm not even, again, if the offense could look like it did today again, they are not back, and which means that they're very much capable of losing to any team at this point. So, Jimmy says, I knew this team wasn't going to win anyways. It's I had an inkling that they could, that they might, right? And I wouldn't be bothered by that. I'm more bothered by the way that they lost. And I think I said this in one of my shows this week, right? I want to see this team scratching and clawing, fighting for everything. There's a way to lose honorably. And I don't think the offense, at least, played honorably in this game. Kind of like RJ said, there was not really any fight in this team. What was the word you used? They didn't show grit or any want to. Yeah. This offense just fell flat on its face. It would have been nice if if they lost and they went out swinging and there was a good effort at the end, especially to win it. I think I would have felt better about that. I'd have shrugged that off. But the way that they lost this game is you guys have no shame. This was extremely disappointing, even for this team, even for this very disappointing 2024 49ers team, that loss was disappointing. That says a lot. Oh, man, I am upset. Jamie says, Steph, let's talk about defense last to keep us in a good mood. Yeah. Defense was great. Aside from, DeAndre Campbell, who basically quit on the team, pulling Antonio Brown on this team. Aside from that, the defense was great. That's so wild. I can't believe he did that. Damn. So here's, I guess, so when Dre Greenlaw exited the game in the third quarter, because Campbell was kind of basically benched in favor of Dre Greenlaw in this game. Like, of course, why wouldn't you be? So when Greenlaw exited the game in the third quarter, that's when he was asked, DeAndre Campbell was asked to go in, and that's when Campbell said, no, like, I'm not playing today. Weird, dude. Man. Mooney Ward said, quote, he's probably going to get cut. Yeah, I would think so. That's so weird. That's lame. That's lame as hell. Those are the kind of people the 49ers don't need on this team, And they got to clean house with, I think, a number of guys who are just not part of the culture that you want to have on this team. And unfortunately, I think like Debo's kind of become one of those guys too. And that's crazy to say because he has a C on his chest, for a long time. Like for as long as Kyle's been the head coach, like Debo has been one of those exemplary players, on the field. And for him to go on social media and talk the way he did, then get community noted, and then ultimately deleting his tweet and still putting up that performance today. Man, I'd be surprised if he spoke with the media today. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very curious to see what he says. Purdy said, quote, I had a lot of plays left out there that I could have made for our team. I feel like I failed the team. Hate to say it, but I feel that way too. I do feel like Purdy failed the team today on a single play. Like, again, the underthrows I can live with because, look, you underthrew it, but you lived to see another down. Maybe you got lucky, didn't get intercepted, whatever. I can move on. But it's all about situational football, right? Like, again, fourth quarter, 2nd and 10, you're in Rams territory. You if you hit a field goal, like you tie it, right? Like why not at that point? Like we're trading off field goals anyway, so let's just try for that. He was trying to be the hero. And I feel like when Brock tries to be the hero and tries to do too much, like backfires on this team, backfires on him, and that's concerning. It's a little concerning to me. All right, we got a super chat, man. I had to scroll all the way down to see the super chat. You guys are keeping it popping in the live chat. RJ said this was like watching the Paul Tyson fight. Wow, we can't get our time back. I'm not frustrated, just disappointed in the offense big time. Damn it, Kyle. That's so funny that you compare it to that because it's like you're expecting a lot better. You're expecting even though you shouldn't expect something better, something good out of like Tyson. In this case, the 49ers are Tyson, right? Like, so, we were fed the idea that the 49ers may actually make this an interesting game. The offense is back, right? Yeah, we can't get our time back. We just wasted 3 hours of our night having to watch the 49ers not do anything. This offense not do anything. I mean, just disappointed. Yep. Someone said, so DFS1 says, maybe the shoulder's still bothering Purdy. I don't want to think that. I mean, last week he looked fine and he was throwing the ball just fine. He had deep attempts last week too. The 2 cold games, I think, did kind of limit him a little bit, especially with injury, because it's harder for your arm to stay warm and warm up and all that, your muscles. In this game, it was raining. I think it was a little chillier in Santa Clara. I mean, I did notice that he had like that one thing on his elbow, which, I think other people have mentioned. He does. It was like a wrap kind of that I think keeps it warm, or like, I don't know what it does, to be honest with you, but I know they had that on the sideline, and then he had like the coat over it. So I don't know if it was that could just be something they've been doing all season, but I noticed that, and like the broadcast didn't mention anything about it, so maybe it was normal, but I don't think the shoulder's bothering him. I think we just have to accept that Purdy was inaccurate today. There's no 2 ways around it. He was inaccurate. And he has been at other times this season as well. Whew. Man. What a day. All right, so now we have nothing to cling on to, which in a way it could be a good thing, because I think this team needs to move on from just the idea that they can make it and just look towards 2025. I've been asking for that for weeks. I get it. They had to keep fighting until they had a chance. Now your chance is at 0.1%. We'll see if it remains that after this week's games, but obviously, like, Rams were one of the teams you needed to beat. You absolutely needed to beat the Rams in order to have any decent chance of making the playoffs, even in wild card. But you couldn't even do that. You couldn't even do that in a field goal fest, man. Just awful. Awful. Oh, well, I appreciate you guys hearing me rant. I hope that, you guys agree with some of the things I'm saying, and it resonates a little bit with you guys as well. I think we're all frustrated with this team, and I think a part of us are glad that it's over, because like they've been stringing us along this season all year. So I think we're just ready to see it over. My sister Saida, thank you Saida for the super chat. She says hopefully they can bounce back next year. I hope so. I mean, a lot needs to happen this offseason, I think, for the 49ers to bounce back. And I do think, obviously the break, having a full offseason without having to worry about playoffs is going to do this team good. Like, I do think that they need that break mentally, physically, to just get back in the mode of trying again. I honestly think they tried too many times to fall short, that they almost felt from the start of this season, they didn't look locked in, because I think they were just so exhausted from all the times that they had tried and failed, like that wears on you. So I think the full off season is going to be great for them. I also think obviously they need to cut ties with players who are just not serving them anymore. Like it's time. It's time for a couple of these guys, right? And I think it's tough, but this business is full of tough decisions. So the 49ers need to be smart with doing that. And yeah, we'll see. And also, like, they need to build through the draft heavily. They need to reallocate to the trenches, defensive line, offensive line as well. Get back to doing that. Like I said, I think they're going to pay Brock Purdy this offseason. The question is how much, we don't know yet, but 49ers, I think are going to try to lowball at first, because that's what they do with pretty much everyone. And maybe, Brock tries to haggle it a little bit. and they can agree to something, but I really don't think it's going to be something that'll take all off season. And I would be surprised if he becomes if he breaks the bank and sets a record or something like that with his contract. I don't see that happening, but we'll see. We'll see. Like these remaining games could be very telling. So far this season, it's hard to say how much this has helped or hurt his contract. I think it's hurt it more than it's helped it. I think the 2023 season and what he did then is going to be, it's going to carry that negotiation, so we'll see how it goes, but definitely a lot of changes that the 49ers need to do this offseason that can help them bounce back next year. Little retooling, you could say. I appreciate you guys. I definitely appreciate all of you who have been, in this live chat, who have been rocking with me all season. We're not done. Like, okay, maybe the 49ers are done, but I'm still here and I'm still going to be doing these shows. Draft season is just around the corner, which means my draft sheet is just around the corner. And I already started it. It's not ready to be shared yet, but I've started the 2025 draft sheet. So that will be coming soon. So keep it tight. I mean, there's a lot to, thanks for letting us complain. Thanks for letting me complain. I've done a lot of complaining today, but it's all been warranted. The 49ers deserved this. So yeah, they had it coming. RJ, thank you, man. 11th hour. RJ says it was a rough season for a lot of people, but there's always next year. Thank you, Steph. We appreciate you more than you know. Keep up the great work. I appreciate you. I appreciate all of you. You guys are awesome, man. And wouldn't be here without you guys. So definitely thank you. And again, I'm not done. Like, I'm still going to do shows, guys. Like, there's still some games to talk about. So you guys keep it locked. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet so you can check out all the videos. We're going to talk about what this team should do going forward, right? If, are they going to be giving Deebo Samuel more snaps over Ricky Pearsall and Jacob Cowing? That is the question. And hopefully we'll like the answer in the coming weeks. But definitely a lot to discuss still, so keep it locked. Audio listeners, leave a rating, leave a review. But for now, folks, have a good rest of your Thursday. Enjoy your weekend. I'll be back on Monday with Weston. It's probably a good thing that I'm giving Weston some time to process this before meeting up with him on Monday. So taking the weekend off. Hope you guys enjoy your weekend as well. Try to touch some grass, enjoy your families. But I'll catch you guys on Monday, all right? Peace.